Good afternoon and welcome to my lecture recital, Colombian Art Song, Poetry, Memory and Identity. Colombian music is the result of the interaction between some Western European countries, mostly Spain, but even more important, the interaction of indigenous and African cultural traditions. This historical mixture produced a musical language characterized by a strong rhythmic identity, lyrical, melodic writing, and tonal harmonic structures. One of the most distinctive elements of Colombian music, especially in the Andean region, is the rhythmic flexibility. Genres such as bambuco, pasillo, guabina frequently combine duple and triple metric groupings, often creating a tension between 3/4 and 6/8 meters. This rhythmic instability is usually reinforced by the use of syncopation and emiola. For example, in the bambuco, we have a mix between 6/8 and 3/4, and it sounds kind of like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Sounds kind of like this. So syncopation is super important in Colombian genres. Also we have the pasillo that has a very strong influence from the European waltz, but it's just way faster. And there is always a very interesting combination with the melody and a very kind of intense and unstable contrapoint. The pasillo is very fast, and that also creates certain ambiguity in the rhythm. It sounds like this. Also, we have more stable rhythms. For example, cumbia in 2/4, but emiola is always present, and it sounds kind of like this. Right? All these genres evolved in a more modern and also complex genres, like for example salsa. It sounds like this. Cool, right? You wanna dance? That's why people from Colombia, we wanna dance all the time. Because all the music that we were listening when we were kids is about dancing. It's about love. It's about passion. And also about instability and flexibility, right? So that's part of our culture. Yeah. Okay. So also in terms of harmony, and here I'm going to start focusing more in the art song. The art song was developed mostly in between the 19th century and the 20th century. The composers, with a very strong influence from European countries, because basically they studied there, and, you know, the classical music was born there. They basically took the tonal romantic harmony and they add basically the rhythm is the key about Colombian music. But also we use certain elements of the harmony of romantic period, like for example chromaticisms. For example, apply secondary dominance frequently, change of modes all the time. In terms of the melody is always very lyrical, singable, it's beautiful, it's passionate. It's not about like virtuosism, vocal virtuosism, it's not bel canto, but it's very clear and very syllabic. Now, let's talk about the influence. So, as you know, the art song was developed mostly in Germany with German Lied, but also in France with the chanson, the mélodie. In Colombia, we call this canción académica. And as I told you, we have this very strong connection with the European traditions. Something very important that I really like is that most of our pieces are based in Colombian poetry. So we don't use Shakespeare, we don't use Mila, we use Carrizo, we use Pombo, and other amazing Colombian poets and writers. The Colombian art song, or canción académica, as I told you, follow in terms of structure, form, duration, range, and even style, the German Lied and the French melody. The main themes of Colombian art song are love, for sure, nostalgia, landscape, and memory of homeland. And here, something very important that we need to be very aware about. South America was invaded and colonized by the Spaniards, who destroyed much of its culture, traditions, and belief systems while imposing their own. It was an era marked by extreme violence, but also by profound human drama, interracial romances, slavery, separation, death, abandonment, journeys, vengeance, pain, rape, and injustice. Nowadays, we still, as a society in general, in the entire world, we still struggle with this. But in South America, basically, we are still in war since more than 200 years ago. That's why our music is also very passionate and very dramatic. I remember when I had the opportunity to perform in Germany, I worked with this very knowledgeable opera director, and the first thing that he told us in a master class, the Latinos, all of us, who would like to sing? Yeah, the Latinos ready to sing. Okay, what would like to sing? Oh, Puccini, Verdi, Mascagni. He like, oh, Latinos, as always. Very dramatic. Very dramatic. You just want to sing loud, you just want to be very passionate. That's who we are, right? And you will hear that in the music. My selection is not like very dramatic music in terms of style, but you will see how deep and beautiful is the music. Okay, so the composers that I'm gonna talk about will be Jaime León, Luis Antonio Calvo, José Antonio Morales, Adolfo Mejía, and Daniel Zamudio. So let's start with Daniel Zamudio. Daniel Zamudio was born in 1887, a very important Colombian composer, director, educator, and musicologist. He advocated for research about Colombian folklore. That was basically the key participation on Colombian history by Zamudio. He developed a great career as a pianist, organist, and conductor, performing in several cathedrals and churches in Colombia, mostly in La Candelaria, which is a beautiful neighborhood in Bogota, Colombia, a beautiful country. Hello, for people from Bogota, hello, in the audience, nice. Also, he held numerous institutional leadership roles, including foundation of the Palestrina Society, the Music School of Cartagena, and the Cultural Society Orfeo in Bogota. He also directed several conservatories across Colombia, and from 1945 until his death, he led the National Police Orchestra. Also, as a composer, his work reflects a synthesis of European traditions, Colombian elements, with a strong emphasis on vocal and sacred music. Okay, so the first example that I would like to perform for you is Para Ti, to you. In my research, I found the first edition of Para Ti identified in the Fields University Library as Lit for Voice and Piano, published in October 1943. What does it mean? That Samudio was very aware that we were kind of copying or emulating the style of the German Lied, right? It wasn't like, no, we're doing something different here. No, it was like, let's respect the tradition, let's bring the tradition here, but with our own style in music. Here the piano, because he was a piano, so he put a lot of very interesting things in the piano that the great Catherine will perform for you. He employs choral ostinatos textures based on repeated block chords, creating a stable harmony and rhythmic foundation. This type of accompaniment is typical of salon and traditional songs, where the piano reinforces the metric and supports a lyrical, syllabic vocal line. The vocal line is predominantly syllabic. What does it mean syllabic? Each syllable per each note. And this is a strategy of mostly romantic composers, that people can focus more in the text and in the intention rather than in the beauty and, let's say, the virtuosism of the vocal line. Para ti suggests a personal and intimate poetic address, likely connected to things such as love, longing, or inward reflection. From a performance perspective, this piece calls for attention to text declamation, phrasing, and expressive nuance, all central qualities of the art song tradition. For you, para ti. translation. Sorry. It's like a lot of things at the same time. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now we're going to continue with Luis Antonio Calvo. And Calvo has certain similarities with the next composers. And here's a question for the musicians. Calvo has very similar kind of life with the next composers. Schubert, Schumann, Beethoven, Mussorgsky, Tchaikovsky. You know what is that? What similarities had this composer? A horrible life. He had a horrible life. He was born in a very tiny town, beautiful town, as the entire Colombia, Gambita, Santander, in 1882, and he was born in poverty. His father abandoned his family at the age of 4, so his mother decided to move to the city of Tunja. Being there, he was basically forced to start working at the age of 9 years old as a messenger in a convenience store. Later, he tried to apply to the Conservatory of Music. Guess what? He didn't have any political influence. He was rejected. Later, he was forced to go to the war for presidential decree without payment. And later, he got the horrible disease of leprosy. And he was confined in a leprosarium in a tiny town called Agua de Dios. Finally, he died. Horrible, right? But not everything was that horrible. In the convenience store, the owner of the convenience store was an amateur pianist, and he had a tiny piano. That piano, Calvo learned how to play. And this guy took him to the Conservatory of Music for Kids in Tunja, and he studied learning their music. Later, he joined to the Departmental Symphonic Band, and he was playing percussion and euphonium. Being there, he learned a lot about the tradition of symphonic bands and marching bands in the entire world and also in Colombia. Later, he applied to the National Conservatory in Bogota. He was rejected, as I told you, but because he was such a prodigy, basically they ended up just admitting him to the conservatory. And he had the chance to study with, sorry, where is that? Okay, Guillermo Uribe Holguín, very important Colombian composer. Holguín, and here are parentheses about Holguín, he lived in Europe most of his life, and he had a very strong connection with Tchaikovsky. And also, he lived in Germany, where he studied with Mahler. So, he brought all this influence to Colombia, and Calvo was one of these composers who took all of that tradition. So it's a very interesting mix in his symphonic production, in between kind of the style of the symphonic bands with the entire symphonic orchestra European tradition. When he was diagnosed with the leprosy, as I told you, he was confined in the leprosarium, but it was a great time for writing music. And he wrote like 100 pieces, intermezzo's, dances, bambucos, pasillos, waltzes, songs, hymns, and sacred music. Now, the example that I'm going to perform for you is En la playa. The translation is on the beach, but it's not a happy song. It's not about summertime. It's very, very sad and melancholic. Here, the interesting things about this is, first of all, the poet. The poet is Adolfo León Gómez, a nephew of the owner of the convenience store, who was a very important poet at that time. So they collaborate a lot. This piece opens in allegretto, is written mainly in 3/8, but includes a contrasting internal section of 3/4 marked andante, later followed by expressive tempo changes such poco accelerando and lentamente. These elements shows that the meter and tempo are not incidental, but essential to the song's expressive structure, which is a challenge for me as an interpreter. The vocal writing is mostly syllabic and shows clear sensitivity to the Spanish declamation. The poem, in the poem, in the poem, songs are compared to sea waves, and the beach becomes more than a physical setting. Its function as a symbolic space of melancholy, memory, and inward reflection. For you, in La Playa.
Estos mis pobres cantares que brotan de mi alma sola se parecen a las olas que cumbrosas de los mares, en lo tristes, en lo amargos, en que mueren desterrados, en lo tristes, en lo amargos, en que mueren olvidados. Estos mis pobres cantares que brotan de mi alma sola se parecen a las olas quejumbrosas de los mares, en lo tristes, en lo amargos, en que mueren olvidados. En lo tristes, en lo amargos, en que mueren olvidados. Los lanzó al mundo sin que haya quien comprenda mis lamentos, cual onda que arrastra al viento a morir sobre la playa. Con su triste, su infinita, su mortal melancolía. Con su triste, su infinita, su mortal melancolía. Los lanzó al mundo sin que haya quien comprenda sus lamentos, cual onda que arrastra al viento a morir sobre la playa. Con su triste, su infinita, su mortal melancolía. Su triste, su infinita, su mortal melancolía.
Again, sorry, we should hire an assistant for this. Oh wait, but it's a beautiful day, sorry. Now let's continue with the next composer. This is Adolfo Mejía Navarro. Adolfo Mejía was born in 1805 in San Luis de Cince in Sucre. He grew up in a highly artistic environment. Sorry, I need to turn on the microphone. Yeah, very multifaceted. Better, right? Okay. So yeah, he grew up in a very highly artistic environment, influenced early on by his father, who was a musician and a craftsman. Different lifestyle compared with Calvo, the previous composer, but a very similar background. What does it mean, similar background? The diversity and basically the flexibility of him managing different type of styles. As part of his background, he was part of the Estudiantina Revollo. He played guitar and also sang in this group. Also the orchestra Eureka, where he played the violin, and the jazz band Lordi Orchestra was one of the most important jazz bands in Colombia. Here he played the piano. In 1930, he traveled to New York, where he performed with the trio Albenics, and he gained international experience and recognition. His breakthrough came in 1938 with Pequeña Suite. This is a very beautiful and complex orchestral piece in 3 movements, all based in traditional Colombian dances. He later studied in France with the famous Nadia Boulanger. Probably you are familiar with her. She was the professor of Aaron Copland, Elliot Carter, Philip Glass, Astor Piazzolla. So Mejía had the opportunity to study with her, and after that, his style changed completely. In posterior pieces that he composed, the style is just more dense and more dramatic. The song that I picked from his catalog is, I would say, one of my favorites. It's such a beautiful piece. It's andante and written in 2/4, very expressive with a more popular approach. Harmonically, the song is firmly grounded in tonality, while incorporating moments of expressive chromatic coloration. The piece evokes certain features of other Latin American genres, such as the bolero, particularly in his harmony language, where the frequent use of minor and minor 7 chords contributes to a more coloristic and at times almost jazz-like sonorities. Rhythmically, it does not align closely with Colombian folk genres such as bambuco or pasillo, but commonly associated with a triple meter. Instead, it's a 2/4 meter, suggests a strong affinity with the Cuban habanera, especially through its characteristic syncopated dotted patterns. Here is the translation. We're going to turn this off.
Quiero tanto que en mi mudo quebranto lloro por ti. Te adoro tanto que hasta en mis sueños sufro pensando en ti. Quiero que al fin descanse resplandecía en gloria al sufrimiento. El cielo mi tormenta, durmiendo que sí. Te adoro tanto, que en mí no hay alegría, ni dicha ni consuelo lejos de ti. Quisiera darte toda la alegría que reinará la vida, verte feliz, darte la gloria dorada de una tarde de sol esplendoroso, toda mi ser, hacerte de arrebores el traje que te cubre y con amaneceres un velo para ti. Darte la gloria dorada de una tarde de sol esplendoroso, toda mi ser, hacerte de arrebores el traje que te cubre y con amaneceres un velo
Okay. Now we're going to continue with Jaime León. And here's something very important, mostly for the singers. If you want to talk about general lit, you need to know Schubert, Schumann, Brahms, right? If you want to talk about chanson melody, you need to talk about Gounod, Fauré, Debussy. If you want to talk about Latin American, Colombian art song, just remember this name, and you're gonna look smart. All right? Jaime León, very important composer. He wrote more than 100 art songs for different type of voices. He was born in 1921, a distinguished composer, conductor, pianist, and a central figure in the development of Latin American art song. In 1941, León moved to New York and was admitted to the junior school. That makes sense, right? Where he studied piano with Joseph Levine and Carl Friedberg, and later pursued conducting and composition with Vittorio Giannini and Ferdinand Wagenard. In 1947, he was selected to be the director of National Symphonic Orchestra of Colombia, making a major milestone. The National Symphonic Orchestra in Colombia is very important in terms of internationally, basically. So after that, Jaime León was called in the entire world to conduct. He was conducting the National Symphony Orchestra of the American Ballet Theater in New York. He was also the principal conductor in the Dallas Symphonic Orchestra and Atlanta Symphonic Orchestra. I forgot to turn on the microphone. Okay. In 1972, he returned permanently to Colombia and served as director of the Bogotá Philharmonic Orchestra. As a composer, he began writing in 1951. His art songs gained wide recognition in 1970s and were performed and recorded internationally. He died in May 11, 2015, and he was that famous because of his art songs that May 11 became the International Day of Latin American Art Song in recognition of his lasting contributions. The first song that I picked from his catalog is a very interesting song. It's A Ti, to you. The poem is by the most famous poet we have in Colombia, which is José Asunción Silva, who collaborates a lot with Jaime León. From the score itself, A Ti is a lyrical song in 3/4 marked Vals muy lento. The most interesting feature is the slow waltz atmosphere created by the piano through recurring broken chords textures. What makes A Ti especially valuable in this program is its restraint. León transforms Silva's intimate poetic world into music through slow circular motion, lyrical vocal writing, and a piano texture that sustains memory, tenderness, and inward reflection rather than strong drama.
Quando la noche tiñe de oro esos espacios que juntos vimos, aunque mi alma emprende a las regiones de lo infinito.
The next song, I will say that is my favorite from this program. It's just amazing, you will notice. It's more openly expressive, more projected, and more lyrical compared with the previous song, A Ti. The poem is by Dora Castellanos. From the score, something important is that it's marked as molto espressivo e rubato. As you notice, the music is very expressive, right? The topic is love. Love is complex. But sometimes, Colombian composers, they don't need to show that much to show that complexity. The piano begins with a dramatic prelude and continues to sustain the song's emotional moment through dense harmony, support, and gesture-driven transitions. The vocal writing is more declamatory, expansive and dramatic, deeply connected to the text. The harmony language remains tonal, but with richer chromatic color and a more modern jazz harmony, influenced by American composers when he was studying in Juilliard. Composers like Gershwin and Barber. So, in Algún Día, León shows a more passionate and forward-moving front of lyrical expression shaped by expectation, longing, and emotional certainty. Okay, the next song is Rima. Sets, a poem by Eduardo Carranza, another very important poet from Colombia. In this setting, León creates the most rhythmically intense and structurally restless of the three songs. From the score, its mostly stunning feature is the piano's persistent triple motion, which creates direct rhythmic pressure inside the double meter. The accompaniment becomes the main engine of the emotional intensity. The vocal writing is more declamatory and speech inflected than in the other two songs. And at points, León moves toward quasi-recitative. The score also shows multiple expressive tempo zones, including menuloso, quasi-recitative, lento, and presto, which give the song a strongly shaped dramatic arc. Rima is especially important in this set. It reveals León not simply as a lyrical song composer, but as a composer capable of transforming poetic urgency into rhythmically instability, declamatory pressure, and concentrated emotional force.
Las palabras ni aun con la música más desesperada. Tal vez con la luna, con una aroma de violetas, húmedo de vino y de música, sufriendo nocturna. Tal vez una noche, cuando es solamente un rumor de vientos y estrellas para el desterrado. Tal vez con la luna, si la luna oliera vino y violetas. Tal vez con palabras nocturnas. Y si las palabras miraran, no puedo decirte ni con el silencio, ni con las palabras, ni aun con la música más desesperada. Decirte
Okay, we're almost done. Finally, a very, very important song that probably my Colombian friends that are here will be very happy to hear. You can join me, you can sing with me. And this is Pueblito Viejo. This is by Jose Alejandro Morales, a more folklore traditional composer from the Andean region. In this program, he represents a different traditions from composers such as Jaime León. Not primarily the cosmopolitan art song, it's more just the Colombian canción. and especially the Vals canción. Morales is significant not only because of his popularity, but because his songs help shape a musical language of regional memory, homeland, and collective identity. This piece is built on a stable pulse, a lyrical and predominant syllabic vocal line, and piano accompaniment that reinforces the song tonal and rhythmically foundation. Musically, the song is based less on harmonic complexity than on a section return melodic memorability and direct expressive clarity. And here, a small story. When I was a kid, I used to visit my grandma frequently, a very Colombian thing, just going to the grandma house every afternoon to play with your cousins and enjoy your family, right? And my grandma, she was a big fan of Morales, and she was always playing this song. And while my cousins were like, oh, grandma's music is so boring, I was like, this is so beautiful, I like it, it's very interesting. So when I started studying music, I learned the song. And always, when I was going to my hometown, I was going to visit my grandma, and the most beautiful greetings. My singer, welcome, let's sing, have a seat. Grandma, what will you want me to sing? Sing Pueblito Viejo, please. So, for all the grandmas in Colombia, this is Pueblito Viejo. Okay, before finishing, thank you so much for being here with me. This means a lot. This is my third lecture recital. Very complex. Like, as you know, there's a lot of things. I'm sorry for all the small mistakes. That's why probably people like do the lecture first and later just the singing part. Very interesting though, I learned a lot, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Professor Will, for all his hard work in helping me to set up this. The amazing Catherine. And I want to take also this moment to say hello to my family in Colombia. This song is for you guys. Esta canción es para ustedes, familia, disfrútenla. And thank you all for being here.
Este pueblo viejo de mi corazón. Este pueblo viejo de mi corazón. Pueblito de mis cuitos, de casas pequeñitas, por tus calles tranquilas corría mi juventud. Por ti aprendí a querer por la primera vez y nunca me enseñaste lo que es la ingratitud. Hoy que vengo a tus lares, trayendo mis cantares, y con el alma enferma de tanto padecer, quiero, pueblito viejo, morirme aquí en tu suelo, una luz del cielo que un día me vio nacer. Hoy que vengo a tus lares, trayendo mis cantares,